Yo, welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. Soapman is in the house. So for the last few episodes, we've been discussing the sons of God. We've been talking about who they were, what they did, and one of the main points that I had to keep re-emphasizing was that the sons of God were the sons of Seth. Now, this has been a raging debate for a long time because most people believe that the sons of God were fallen angels. In fact, me and my older brother Terry were just having this debate the last couple days, and he takes the position that they were heavenly beings. And I wasn't surprised because most people hold the position that the sons of God were these heavenly beings that came from heaven and slept with human women. And the result was this unnatural offspring, a race of giants. That's the position that most people hold. The original story is a story in the Bible. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4 talks about how the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they basically had sex with them and spawned a race of giants. You can go read it, Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. I won't go through it here. I've went through it several times in previous episodes. But this has been a debate for longer than I've been alive, for at least 1,000 years, probably twice as long. And on one side, the majority of people believe that these sons of God were supernatural heavenly messengers that betrayed their order and office in sleeping with these human daughters of men. And on the other side, the minority simply believe that these sons of God were the sons of Seth, who is the son of Adam. My point for doing all this, for re-emphasizing this episode after episode, is to show you how a misinterpretation of the Bible can lead you to believe something that is not true. Ladies and gentlemen, try to absorb what I'm saying to you. The majority of people who believe in the Bible and who try to follow and interpret scripture believe in winged heavenly people in error. This misinterpretation of what scripture is saying has led the majority of people to believe something that is false, to believe in creatures or entities who do not exist. And this is one of the foundational beliefs of the majority of Christians. Like so many other misinterpretations or false perceptions or beliefs in error, this is just one of many. I think the problem is people get so emotional and excited about what they believe, they abandon all reason, education, and science, because there are a lot of professional people who believe in winged heavenly beings. And so my point in this, re-emphasizing this over and over, episode after episode, is to convey to you how a misinterpretation or misperception can lead you down a rabbit hole of falsehood. I totally agree with the story about the sons of God. I totally agree that the sons of God were in fact angels. They were holy men. They were the sacred, holy lineage of Adam. But they did not have wings. They did not descend from heaven. They were not spiritual heavenly beings. They were in fact men. They were the sons of Seth. They were extraordinary men. They were not normal men by any stretch. They lived for hundreds of years. They were brilliant. They were educated. And they were truly extraordinary in every way. They were perfect. We are talking about perfect men, as perfect as you're gonna get. So Flavius Josephus is a Jewish historian. He's someone who understood that these sons of God were the sons of Seth. He tells the exact same story that the Bible tells, but he does not refer to anyone as sons of God. Josephus tells the exact same story the Bible tells, but in the place of sons of God, he says the sons of Seth. Josephus wrote a book called The Antiquities of the Jews. Let me just re-emphasize, Josephus is a Jewish historian. Key words, Jewish historian. So he should know a little bit about what he's talking about. He's got skin in the game. And Josephus refers to the sons of God as the sons of Seth. He never uses the phrase sons of God. He says sons of Seth. And in his writing, he refers to the sons of Seth as angels. So Enoch is a central character in this whole story, and he should be, because this event that we're talking about involving the sons of God happens during his lifetime. Not only that, it happens during his rule or during his reign, because Enoch is a ruler. Enoch is also a son of God. Enoch is the best among the sons of God. He is the Michael Jordan. He is the Michael Jackson of the sons of God. You can go to the Sumerian king list and match up the lineage of Adam to the lineage and rulers of the kings on the Sumerian king list. And Enoch matches up exactly to the seventh king on the Sumerian king list. Enoch is the seventh descendant of Adam, and he matches up to the seventh ruler on the Sumerian king list. And we've talked about that in previous episodes. I won't go through that evidence here. But we should want to know what Enoch has to say. This whole story about the sons of God is described in detail in the Book of Enoch. Now, we don't know who the author of the Book of Enoch is, but I think it's worth listening to this premier man, this central figure in this story. He's a part of this story. So I'm going to read to you what the Book of Enoch says about this event that happened with the sons of Seth, or the sons of God. Now listen closely, because I'm going to read some stuff that you should already be familiar with. But Enoch, the Book of Enoch, is going to go into much more detail than either the Bible or Josephus. The Book of Enoch reads, listen closely please. It says, "And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels," it says, "and the angels." Okay, so right off the bat, Enoch is referring to whoever he's talking about as angels. But remember, Josephus tells a story about the sons of Seth, and he too refers to them as angels. So there is no question as to whether these are angels or not. What I keep re-emphasizing is that these so-called angels were flesh and blood human beings, the sons of Seth. Now let me start back over. It says, "And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters, and the angels, the children of heaven." Now, it says the children of heaven here, and I'm not going to dig into what heaven means in this context, because I believe it meant the Garden of Eden. This was when this event occurred after Adam and his family migrated out of the Garden of Eden, which was considered heaven on earth. So it says, "And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children." It says, "And Semyaza, who was their leader. So here, where the Bible gives you this generalized, vague, summarized account of what happened, Josephus goes into a little bit more detail. But the Book of Enoch is giving you names and receipts. It says the leader of these mutineers, if you will, the leader of the sons of God, the leaders of this line of Seth, it gives you his name, Semyaza. It says, and Semyaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. Let me read that again. It says, and Semyaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone will have to pay the penalty of a great sin. Folks, what does that tell you? The leader of this rebellion knows exactly what he's doing. He says, I don't want to pay the penalty of a quote unquote, I don't want to pay the penalty of this great sin alone. It says, and they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Samlazaz, their leader, or Samyaza, Arakolba, Ramael, Kokablel, Tamlel, Ramlel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakiel, Asel, Armaros, Batarel, Ananel, Zakiel, Samsapiel, Satarel, Churiel, Jomyael, Sariel. These are their chiefs of 10. Now let me explain to you why I went through and read all those names. If you were listening, you heard most of them ended with El. Back in these days that we're talking about, the word El means God. So these people that Enoch is giving you their name, but it gives you the name of 19 leaders. And over half of their names end in El, which back in these days meant God. So all of these 19 leaders are, in their name at least, are associating themselves with God. So it says that they swore an oath on Mount Hermon, which is today in northern Israel, Lebanon. I'm not sure, it's disputed territory. I think Israel has taken control over the area that Mount Hermon is in. It goes on to say, and all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose one for himself, and they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants. And all three sources of this story use the word giants or some equivalent, whose height was 3,000 ells. I don't know how tall that is, but it seems like a lot. Who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Now there's a lot to unpack there. So what do we see? This was no gradual decline. No, not even a little bit. This was a conscious betrayal. This was a plot. This was a conspiracy. This was a cabal. These sons of Seth, sons of God, angels, know exactly what they are doing. So much so that they swear an oath to do it and to not abandon the plan until it is complete. These are no dummies. These are smart men. These are brilliant men. These were a line of perfect men. And now they have sworn an oath to take all that they have and all that they know that is good and use it for self-gain. And not only that, they plan to indulge in it. What they are agreeing to do on the summit of Mount Hermon, they know is unforgivable. And they know there will be no turning back after this oath that they've taken. And that's exactly what they do. Full throttle, pedal to the floor, pedal to the metal, as they say. The sons of God do the exact opposite of what made them holy. Like, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, big deal, so what? But what you're not understanding that is that these were holy. This was the holy line of Adam. They're no longer performing the offices that made them holy. They're no longer paying homage to God and worshiping and sacrificing to God. Josephus tells us that on account of their own strength is why they did this. So the sons of God have become the gods themselves in defiling themselves and giving in to their desires, to all of their desires. It says that they spawn a race of giants. All three accounts speak of the sons of God having children that were giants. Now, when you think of giants, it's a thing of fantasy. You know, it's the villains in the story, in the stories we were told as children. I think of Jack and the Beanstalk, or, you know, the Jolly Green Giant on my string beans and corn. But the Bible, Josephus, and the Book of Enoch speaks of these giants as though they are real. They speak of this just like in casual conversation. They just speed right past it like giants, you know what I mean? And the Bible goes on to say that they reappear after the flood. God sends the flood to wipe out these giants, and we hear stories about them even after the flood, as in the story of David and Goliath. Today, if you want to see proof or evidence of giants, or if you want evidence of this story about the sons of God, 90% of the time you're going to get a hoax. All of the stuff online today, or most of the stuff online today, is just a hoax or a ruse to get you to click and get you to watch. There is no skeletal remains of giants as of this day. But that doesn't mean that there is no proof that giants once existed. Back in the 1500s, when Spanish explorers first started exploring South America, they wrote about encountering these giant tribes of Native Americans. They talked about how Magellan was one writer who talked about how there were 10, 15 foot tall men in some of the tribes that they encountered. Going back from the 1500s and before then, Native American tribes are riddled with oral traditions of giants. When I say all of them, I mean all of them. Almost every single Native American tribe, meaning in South America, Central America, and North America, from the 1500s back, the Native American tribes talk about their encounters with giants. They describe them. They talk about how, they were friends with some of these tribes of giants, but most of the time, these giant tribes were their enemies. They described them most of the time as being gigantic, 10 to 15 feet, some 20 to 25 feet tall, red-haired, aggressive, and cannibalistic. These Native American oral traditions talk about how different Native American tribes who were once enemies would band together to fend off a common foe. Why? These gigantic terrors were cannibalizing all of the tribes. They were kidnapping and raiding members of each tribe, taking them back home and eating them, hunting them like livestock. So these Native American tribes start banding together with each other. Power is in numbers, and they would attack and rid themselves of their common cannibalistic foe. And as you can even see in this slide, if you look at this gigantic man that these Indians have killed, he has red hair. It's a black and white photo, but I don't know if you can look at the slide and tell that they're trying to convey to you that this giant creature they've slain has red hair. If we can go back for 1 second to what Josephus says. Josephus is one of the 3 sources of this story of the sons of God and them sleeping with the daughters of men and spawning a race of giants. And Josephus says something very peculiar in his account of this event. If we can go back to it just for 1 second. Josephus says, "For many angels of God accompanied with women and begot sons that proved unjust and despisers of all that was good, on account of the confidence they had in their own strength." Remember, that was their reason. That was these sons of God, or these angels, reasoning for doing what they did. Josephus says, on account of the confidence that they had in their own strength. He says, for the tradition, meaning what is generally believed in my time about this story, for the tradition is that these men did what resembled the acts of those whom the Grecians called giants. Now, what exactly is Josephus talking about? Well, folks, this should blow your mind as much as it blew mine. Because what Josephus is talking about when he says the tradition is that these offspring of the sons of God did what the Grecians say the giants did. Well, what do the Grecians say the giants did? Well, when you think about the Greeks and them talking about giants, what do you think of? Josephus can only be talking about the Greek gods. Remember this, the sons of God made themselves gods. Why? On the account of the confidence they had in their own strength. And he says that they behaved like the Grecians said the giants behaved. Well, who did the Grecians say the giants were? The gods of Greek mythology. Zeus. And the gods of Mount Olympus. That's the only people that Josephus could be talking about. The Greeks had a tradition and a belief in gods and half-gods, deities who had been spawned or who had been born from the gods, half-god. That's what the Greek pantheon of gods is all about. And if you know the story of the Greek gods, they're quite mischievous, coming in different forms, having sex with human women, giving birth to half god, half humans. They themselves being half gods, half humans, or 100% God. Josephus is connecting and correlating the biblical story of the sons of God with Greek mythology. The Book of Enoch says that these giant offspring of the sons of God consumed all the acquisitions of men. What that means is that they ate up all the resources. They consumed all the resources. They ate up all the food. They slept with all the women. They took all of everything. They occupied all of the land. Their greed could not be sustained. It says that men, these men, or the common man, would have served these giant godlike creatures. They would have served them. They would have fed them. They would have worked for them. They would have exhausted themselves at their pleasure. And the Book of Enoch says when these giant creatures could no longer be sustained or satiated, that they turned on the men that served them. The Book of Enoch says that they devoured mankind and also themselves. So to give you a perspective of what's going on, just the Book of Enoch calls them the lawless one. It calls them the lawless ones. This was a time of utter and complete chaos. The Book of Enoch says they defiled the beasts of the earth, the fish of the sea, and the fowl of the air. Let me tell you something, folks. That means what you think it means. That means exactly what you think it means, and I ain't about to say it on YouTube. I can't say it on YouTube. This giant offspring, these giant tribes from the sons of God, that came from the sons of God, the old text called them Nephilim. The Nephilim are not the sons of God. The Nephilim are the offspring of the sons of God. They're giants, basically. And they mimic their parents, but they're so much worse. And they copulate with anything that they can copulate with. And let's get this clear. This is not just completely lust and desire. These are smart people to certain degrees. They held knowledge that only they had. A lot of the knowledge that they were giving to man, they were the only ones that knew it. Going back to the generations when they were good and pure and holy, they took that knowledge and corrupted it. When the Book of Enoch says that they defiled animals and fish and birds, they weren't just acting out of lust and desire. They were experimenting. They were experimenting. And it kind of makes you wonder where we get a lot of the things of our imagination from. Mermaids and sirens that used to steer, the story. Well, a lot of it we get from Greek mythology. Sirens and, mermaids that used to sing and steer sailors off course and lure them in to their demise. And, centaurs and minotaurs, like the minotaur in the labyrinth in Minoan mythology, Pegasus, griffins, and just all of these hybrid creatures of our imagination. It kind of makes you wonder, where does it all come from? When did it all start? And you read the Book of Enoch, and Enoch tells you that this really happened in real life, the inbreeding of man and animal. There were no other men on earth like the sons of God and their descendants. Whether they used what they knew for good or ill, they were very unique in a lot of ways. I know I might be rambling or going off in a direction that you did not intend, and you can stop the video at any time. I don't know if you've ever heard of the story told by the ancient Babylonian named Berosus. In ancient times, There was a scribe by the name of Berosus, a historian, if you will. He wrote about a fish-like man who visited mankind in times ancient to him. And he said this being's name was Oannes, and he described this being exactly like the picture you see on your screen. He said he had the whole head of a fish and a man's head beneath the head of the fish. And it describes him as his whole backside being that of a fish and his whole front side being that of a man with man feet sticking out of the bottom. You see this story of the fish god Oannes. And you see another god called Dagon, who is also half man or half fish. But what I'm saying, all these beliefs, whether they're Egyptian or Greek or Babylonian, they started somewhere. And you have in the Book of Enoch a possible origin, is what I'm saying. It all sounds like fantasy, doesn't it? Giants, hybrid animal-human creatures, mermaids, Pegasuses. It's all storybook stuff. It's all supposed to be. But the further you go back in time, the weirder things get. And here's the most disturbing part of it to me. These stories are not coming from dummies. These stories are coming from very credible people. These people build the first pyramids, build the first temples. They were called ziggurats. They formed the first civilizations, which we still pretty much mimic to this day. So to call these people quacks or ignorant or liars is to call ourselves that we still copy and piggyback and build off of what they did back then. So to criticize them, you can't criticize them without criticizing yourself. And that's what makes it so hard for me to disbelieve them or discredit them, is that they're a lot like us. Now, I think us are a bunch of dummies. And so in that regard, there's an argument that they too were a bunch of dummies. But you can't change facts. You have to give credit where credit is due. These were a great people that are saying these incredible things. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Son of a Preacher Man. If you make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you got any compliments, comments, or insults, leave them in the comment section. I'll see you next time. Same soap time, same soap channel. Soapman out.